Hello, everybody. As you're getting started, getting signed in here, we're really close to the top of the hour. So as you sign in, look for the chat button in your control panel. And once you open up chat, look for the all panelists and change the drop down from all panelists to panelists and attendees. That way you can talk to and chat with other people, not actually talking, but chatting with other people and chatting and asking questions of the panelists. We have several people behind the scenes that can be answering questions, and we'll be forwarding those to Steve Lee as well. Now, with that, it's at 12 o'clock, so I'll go this again. People have joined. Please find the chat panel in your control panel and change your all panelists to a panelist and all attendees so that you can chat with everybody. I'm Rich Peterson with Allen Interactions. We're doing the webinar Limited Budgets and Schedules with Steve Lee today. Steve is one of Allen Interactions co-founders and Chief Delivery Officer. He's knows all and sees all on things coming up. I don't have a whole bio, so I let Steve run through that and start running through the things. Again, ask questions. We want to have this as interactive, asking things as we can. And as you're signing in, let us know where you're coming in from and joining us today, and we'll get started. Steve, okay. Go for it.
All right, thanks, Rich. My video is on just for a second, being that a lot of us work from home, and I love how Spectrum has a commercial saying how reliable they are, and they're up 99% of the time. But the 1% they're down is when I'm usually doing a webinar. So, hello, this is me. I'm live. I look like the picture, and I'm shutting my video down now. All right. Now, luckily, we have Rich and a couple other people from our company, Claire and Carrie, and they're going to be monitoring the chat. So, I am encouraging them to interrupt me at any time, one, to make sure that I'm staying on time, and two, if someone's got a question. So it's fine by me. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So we're gonna do welcome for just about 5 minutes, and that welcome is kind of you in chat saying where you're from, me giving a very brief history of me and Allen Interactions, and then we're gonna talk about the real need. We have a lot of people that come to us. Sometimes they come to us because they want us to do it, and sometimes they come to us because they want us to help them, and sometimes they come to us to ask them what they should do. So we'll talk a bit about that. And we use an agile process. And being that the title of this is if you've got a limited budget or a limited time frame, people have a feeling that Allen Interactions only works in one way. And we've built a lot of award-winning, highly interactive, serious game simulation stuff. But our agile process allows us to do quick, down and dirty, basically make it the best that you can make it based on whatever constraints you're given. So talk a little bit about how that leads us to be able to maximize timeframes and budgets. And then we're going to talk a little bit about workflows. Not everybody has the same workflow, and not everyone that comes to us has the same workflow. And what I mean by that, some people need it fast, some people need it cheap, some people need it high quality. And if any of you have ever seen one of those graphics, trying to do all three is impossible. So we work differently based on what the workflows are. And then we have created some technologies that if you can leverage them or you can build them as part of the process, it really helps. And then we'll have some time for any questions that we forgot to answer or need some deeper answers to. It might be you put something in the chat and we go, let's hit that in the Q&A. And no, we're not Allen Communications. So I'll hit that one real quick. In the 80s, there was Allen Communications, Allen Interactions, and Allen, actually Paul Allen was Toolbook. And Allen Communications was Quest, and Allen Interactions prior to Authorware. So Dr. Michael Allen, our namesake, 70s, got his PhD in educational psychology, went to work for Control Data, and we call him the godfather of e-learning because at Control Data, he headed research and development for Plato, which was the first commercially available e-learning authoring tool and the first learning management system ever. They then wanted to build, he and his team wanted to build a PC version, and Control Data laughed at him saying it's a toy. So he got funding from Apple Computer and built a tool called Authorware in the 80s. And in the early 90s, that company merged with Macromind Paracom that had Director and some 3D products, became Macromedia during the big .com boom. And then Macromedia was bought by Adobe. Our company was created because they just wanted to sell software, and we wanted to help people build effective solutions. So there's me. I went to college to be a lawyer, and then I found out you had to major in something. So I got my degrees in computer science, artificial intelligence, was a speed programmer. At one point, I was considered the fastest Turbo Pascal programmer on the planet. And I needed a job, but I didn't want to leave my college town. My girlfriend at the time, who I married 10 years later, didn't want to leave. So I lucked into an e-learning job. It's a long story. But then I found Authorware, and Dr. Allen found me. So right time, right place. So I was very proud to be co-founder of the company. So there you go. There's my little intro. If anyone has any great, wonderful stories, feel free to throw them there in chat. But yeah, educational language experiences. That's yeah, we've actually almost built some. We've gotten close, and we would love to do it in a very highly interactive way. So one of these days we might get that opportunity. We've also been really close to redoing entire K through 12 curriculum for some foreign countries. Hasn't quite yet worked out. So yes, 1993. Yeah, I was quite young. It was pretty funny. I have pictures from back then. All right, well, there's the welcome. Hopefully that gave enough time for people to join, because I know when these things, I figure 5 minutes, you got to let people get in. So I love to burn up time. So who are we as a company, since Dr. Allen and I and another gentleman spun off from Macromedia? Well, 43 years of using SAM. What we mean by that is Dr. Allen, back in the 70s, wrote a paper about successive approximation, because he was using ADDIE, if any of you know what ADDIE is, and teaching ADDIE, and it wasn't really working at Control Data. So he developed an agile system back then. We've been using it. And then, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, we were convinced to write a book and productize it. So as I said, we've been around for 27 years. We've been in the top 10 for 20 years, because I think they've only been doing the top 10 lists for 20 years. So we've got books, done a lot of projects for a lot of companies. And being that we came from the industry of enabling and helping people, we still do training. We really would like you to not need us, but we're here when you do. And so a lot of clients, I think once we counted maybe 300 or so of the Fortune 500, so many industries, it's easier to tell us what we haven't done. And we've done a blended approach, and we've got some nice numbers there. So if you go to our website, in case you're curious about who we've worked with a lot of people, but those are the only people that let us say we have. All right, any questions that anyone saw before I move on from this one?
Nope, we're set to go. Keep moving.
All right. So Dr. Allen basically said that our process and our design methodology is to get people to do the right things at the right time. And why is that so important? If you try to create learning that makes people the Wikipedia, it takes a lot of time. And especially now that everything is online and cloud-based, what you knew yesterday is changed today. So if we get people to know how to critically think and make good decisions, and they know how to use the tools, the job aids, they can look things up, they will act like an expert. It's no longer being an expert and knowing all things makes you successful. So our design methodologies and the way we save time and money in the development process is because we're focused on this. All right, now, for example, we created a tool that helps people figure out what it is that is the best place for them to focus. So let me do a quick change of my screen to go over to a browser. And Rich, confirm when you see this tool up on the screen.
I see Allen Interactions Learning Design Tool.
Perfect. All right.
Explore.
Explore. So might be a little hard to read. We happily give this. So I would say if you want a copy of this, let us know. But we start off by just defining like what is mobile learning, when to use it, when not to use it, why you would. On the social side, like coaching. And if I go back home, the nice thing we did is my dad played 20 questions with us as we used to drive across the country. But we hated playing because dad always had some relative of his that supposedly was famous that no one ever heard of. So we said, well, let's kind of do that and help people figure out what would work. So here you might want to put in the name of your learning program. So it might be Alan Helps. And then the business need is everything for everyone. And we even give a little thing here to do like an example of what a business need example would be. And then we submit it. And then what is a learning objective? Might be pick the best delivery modality. All right. Now I can submit it. And now what's going to do is say, all right, well, can all of the learning program content be scripted? And if the answer is no, just telling you, you can't build e-learning because if you can't write it down, then you need a live person to be able to answer questions. So we're going to say yes. If you said no, it would basically take everything that is pre-built, asynchronous, and poof, it all goes away. Yes. Does the learning program require dynamic dialogue with experts? No. Does the budget allow for learners to be in the same place? No. Does the budget allow for development of highly interactive? Well, let's hope so. Does the subject matter require individuals take the training at the same time? No. Does the training require complex practice? Yes. Does the training require collaboration with the group? Say no. Verbal, nonverbal skills and training the other person listening and evaluating. We've actually done this where we shoot it off and people listen and they score back. Can learner takes break? Yes. Are senior leaders and subject matter experts regularly available? Yes. Learners have success with mobile devices? Yes. Should the content be made available? Yes. Are the learners expected to gain? Yes. Are peers available to provide constant guidance? Let's just say no. Are line managers expected to foster learning performance over time? I hope so. Are there a large number of best practices? Yes. So what we would say is we recommend you do experiential, job-related action learning, some coaching, and game and simulation. And we go to the questionnaire results and it tells you what your answer was and what approach was taken away because of that answer. So this is the type of thing that helps you save time and money is we would call it the scavenger hunt. So from a scavenger hunt side, what we do is we would say we're going to give you some questions. We did this for a company that they actually lease properties, apartments, condos, and what we did is they were given the new California encyclopedia, and I swear it is thick, on the new housing, what is it, the California Fair Housing Act. And it is like a driver's manual on steroids. And there's no way you're going to memorize it all. So what they wanted is they needed to turn this around in 3 weeks. They had a very limited budget. We said, look, we're going to create problems for your employees to solve. And they have to give the answer, but then they have to tell us where they found it in the manual. We use that law as a cheat manual like you're playing a game. So we had one activity where you had to look at Craigslist ads and find out if there was anything that was discriminatory and why and where you found out the definition. You would go through a conversation with someone maybe trying to have a service animal, but they have no documentation. And they actually use their phones to videotape that with other staff members. And we were able to allow them to upload that. So they were able to create a training tool in just 3 weeks because instead of teaching them the law, page after page after page, and then graphics and charts and animations and a lot of audio narration, we basically gave them what their job is going to look like, what they're going to trip over, and gave them a scavenger hunt. We even did a bar game, the one where it's timed and you get less points the longer you wait to answer by getting hints. And it became really fun and it worked well for everyone. So What we're saying is that whatever it is you're trying to teach, when we're trying to do it in a small amount of time or a limited budget, we would say, is knowing it all really the need, or is it using reference material, using job aids, knowing who the right person to ask is, being able to solve problems? If that's what you're trying to do, let's teach people to be good at that and give them access to job aids or websites or PDFs, even let them print them if they want. So any question about that? That's sort of my little spiel about, we might be training too much. Not everything is a fact to be memorized. So let's find out what you really need to be training. One small piece of feedback is about the spelling of question. Okay, the spelling of questionnaire. All right, well, the thing is we actually give this to people to, look at that, to play around with. And I think someone was demonstrating how you could go in and change it. So that's kind of a perfect, I'm going to kind of skip ahead because you asked. So we've actually created a tool where you could go in here and you could edit the sheet. So it brings up a document and you could go into the tool, and then we would have to find out where questionnaire was. And then we could change it, and then you come back to here and then you click load data. So I think in a previous demo, someone misspelled questionnaire and they forgot to put it back. That's because I'm going to pretend positive intent that someone didn't miss that in QA, because we've had this for a lot of years. And what does the approach removed mean? Okay. When I was showing it, that it says here that does a subject matter expert require individuals to take the training at the same time? And it doesn't require they take it at the same time. So based on some answers, and it also required that another answer was they had to be able to take it at different times. So based on a couple answers, we removed ILT as an approach, because if they don't have the ability to take it at the same time, or you don't have a budget to travel, that we would say instructor-led training isn't. So that's just a logic thing. We would say, let's pretend that every single one of the strategies, so if I go back home and I go here, we start by saying, you know what, all of these might work. And then based on how you answer the questions, we go, well, that one won't. So that's just a way we were able to do this quickly. If we tried to code it and figure out what you should give, it took a lot more time than just removing stuff.
And Steve, just quickly, since we did this with a couple of clients, what would be the process of having us help them build this or build out a tool for them? A lot of people are interested in what this is and how this works and why we've been hiding it from them.
Oh, well, we don't, I mean, when we do webinars, we show it and we give it away for free. When someone has us do a class, we give it away for free. I guess we haven't advertised it because those people then, we do a little training and we teach them how they can change. We create their own version of it, and then they can change these questions and answers. So I guess we haven't advertised it because then we would have a few hundred companies saying, when can I get my next one? And being it's free. So I would have to say probably because we're giving it away for free. So it becomes a value add of people we're already doing work with. But we give it to free, just the whole editing process. If you want us to change it, it probably takes about 2 to 3 hours to get you set up, get your own version of it, and teach you how to go in and use the editor. So that's the truth. Hopefully that's a good answer.
And we do offer strategy meetings, like a 90-minute strategy meeting where we can talk about this at the same time. You can find how to set those up on the website, and typically you'll be talking to me first and we'll set that up, but we can also talk about this tool and work it through and use it for your strategies.
Right. And to define free means you get this one. We've got clients that want it to be slightly different. They have different goals than just weaning out some categories. So this has a very specific purpose. You have a list of things, you have questions, and certain answers eliminate certain choices. That's all it is. We just happen to apply that to modalities and learning. But we are happy to create a tool like this for anything. But that's not free. But we could find a way to do it quickly and very cost effectively. All right, moving along. Hopefully I hadn't taken that was a little more time than I thought, but I think we jumped a little bit into some of the technology. Now, the process that we use to create everything is SAM, successive approximation. You could call it model, methodology. And we've actually created a version of this for people who are Addy shops and they have to use Addy. So background became analysis, prototype became, I think you see, don't tell Dr. Allen I said that, but we really are doing a lot of the same things. It's the order in which we do them that gives the greatest impact, both to learning effectiveness and the speed at which we can move through this. So the information gathering, analysis phase, the only thing we do different is we are not just finding out about the user, what their job is, what they know, what they need to know, but really dig into the motivation and why people who were trained in whatever means you've done up till now, I guarantee they're not all using 100% best practices, because people get out there and they try what you gave them in training and something doesn't go right. And then they look around and go, what's everyone else doing? Or, yeah, I know this is the way I'm supposed to do it, but it sure takes a long time. There's a shortcut to this. I know there is. This doesn't use common sense. I'm going to go ahead and use some more common sense. So our research has showed that people after training fall down in the best practices is more likely because they think they know better, not that they forgot. But people keep building training programs trying to get them to remember. Well, first we want to find out, are they forgetting or are they just think they're smarter than you are from the training department? Well, once we find that out, then we can do a design that addresses that motivational component. And we basically want to create a design where we let them do it the way they think, we let them fail, and then we coach them into finding the right way. And once they do that, they think they came up with the answer, and then they trust it because it came from them. It wasn't something we told them, it's something they figured out. So we focus this iterative design phase around the activities, not the content. And what I mean by that, this is a bad example of learning, Jeopardy. Now, I've got a whole story about how we badmouthed Jeopardy, and the Jeopardy people had a meeting with us and we told them how we would do it. And we're part of an effort that actually has been given the official trademark approval to use Jeopardy in e-learning. But if you think about Jeopardy, and if anyone's ever seen the movie White Men Can't Jump, Rosie Perez, the entire movie, is studying to be on Jeopardy. Jeopardy is not the learning, Jeopardy is the motivation. It's the quiz at the end where she can win money. But when people use Jeopardy, they give people the information in an answer question once, and they assume they'll remember it. Well, one, there's no repetition. And two, they're not playing against anybody and they're not winning any money. So they're not motivated. Jeopardy works well because the money and the competition is the motivation. But it's a good example that activity, Jeopardy, if you design it and you test it and you pilot it, and let's say you create one board of answers and questions and categories and dollar amounts and the buzzers and the timer and double Jeopardy, you put a little bit of content, real content in, and then you test it, and then whatever doesn't work, you tweak it. That's what this phase is. We design Jeopardy, we prototype it, we then put it in front of a crowd, we see how it works, we then redesign it, tweak it, and when we finally get one board that everybody loves, we call it design proof. Now, we end up building a Jeopardy, a Wheel of Fortune, a Price is Right, Family Feud, because different learning environments are required if you want to do a role play, or you need to do a software task, or you actually do need to memorize, flight reservations. What's the 3-letter designated code for, let's say, Tampa, TPA? So that's what this phase is. And we create activities that we then can reuse, because there might be a lot of memorization. There might be a lot of conversations and sales, customer support. There might be a lot of software tasks. If we come up with a great learning environment, then we can reuse that over and over and over again and save a lot of time and money. So that's design proof. So when we get to alpha, alpha is now putting content in, and we reduce time because the subject matter experts are no longer writing prose. They're not writing the Wikipedia. They're writing answers and questions to Jeopardy, and that goes a lot faster because they helped us design Jeopardy, and now they're just writing situations. And so the development of alpha goes really fast. Then through technology, we put this in, and when someone says, I want this changed, it basically takes us seconds or minutes to change all the content. So we can go from alpha to beta and change 100% of the content while you're on the screen. We actually make the changes sometimes during a meeting like this in Zoom. Sometimes they give us feedback, and then they're like, how in the world did you change it so fast? Because we created tools that allows us to go from alpha to beta to gold lightning fast. So we spend a little more time getting it right. And then if you've got something that can be reused, well, we'll just pop it in and you just have to change the content. All right, now to give you a slightly deeper into that, while we're doing this iterative design process, we are doing mock-ups of how things look and feel while we're doing prototypes of how they work. And then we will make sure that everything functions. We'll actually put it on an LMS, make sure bookmarks and scores, but it's got real content. So we take knowledge objectives and create performance objectives. What do they need to do? If we have a limited time frame and a limited budget, let's just get them to practice almost like an assessment, like a fun practice assessment with a lot of help and coaching. We could find better ways of giving them all the sort of didactic content. And we design it in a way that provides context, which means it's a story, it's a day in the life. This is exactly the situation you're coming up to. We give them a challenge, which says you have to do this in X amount of time. These are your KPIs. You can make no more than this number of errors. So they know what success is defined as. The activity, that's what they do with the mouse and the keyboard on the screen. And anyone asking, yes, this works for instructor-led and virtual instructor-led. We do the exact same thing. And as you saw in a previous slide, a lot of our projects are blended. And then we develop a content grid where we take real, live, representative content so that that design proof can be tested with real people and say, I learned this. And then we can go into developing Alpha Beta Gold because we know it is a set of learning environments that work, that people understand and can perform and practice. And then we just need more content, basically rinse, repeat. Again, this is all optimized to save time and money. And when we have more time and money, we spend more time here building higher levels of interactivity, higher end media, more immersive learner experiences, 3D, VR, AR. And the good thing is when you have a limited budget and limited time, we can still get great instructional design. We just limit some of the other stuff. And again, we really try to convince our clients that if you have PDFs and websites with the content and you create great interactivity, they will go and look up the answer, no different than looking up a cheat manual when you're trying to play a game. All right, I'll stop there and see if we have any questions. And Dr. Allen is in chat. Great. I told you guys not to tell him, but I guess he just found out what I said. All right, Rich, did I miss anything in the Q&A? Yeah, he heard. Yeah.
No, I have not seen any other serious questions. We'll just keep on moving on.
Okay. Now, something that we have learned over the years is not everyone is coming to us with the same need. So max impact, for example, means that you are wanting the highest quality, like you want to be absolutely sure people get this and you're willing to do whatever it takes. And usually human life is involved or a great deal of money. And we have clients that do that. So if we're trying to doctor training, we train medical devices to make sure they're properly, the procedures are properly followed, to do the surgeries and, like sedation. We've done training on pediatric sedation. That's max impact. You don't want to be making a mistake. Some people say, I got to have this by the end of the year. Really? Yeah. I mean, seriously, we really got to get it by the end of the year. And no, we can't just give them the website. Max flex. Well, we're going to start off hot and heavy, but then we might be doing product training and they might be late. We've had clients that were supposed to deliver in March and the software was supposed to be ready December 1 and the software was ready February 15th. So we had to flex. Let's experiment. We really don't know what the best instructional design is here. We're doing something that no one else has ever done. So we're willing to play and do a lot of iterative design to find out what works. mentor me. We really want to do it ourselves. We don't have the money to pay you, but we've got a huge staff. And so if Allen Interactions can mentor us and maybe be 10% of the team, 20% of the team, then we'll guide you there. It might just be classes, it might be workshops, it might be getting you started, it might be feedback, but some version of mentoring. Our team is your team. He might just say, well, we could do it, but they gave us 50 of them and we can only handle 30. Can you do the other 20? Yes, we do that. And then, help us. That might be, we've gone out and helped people find, interview, train, and certify staff augmentation. So we go through a lot of different workflows. So what I'm going to do, now, Rich, were there any questions you were supposed to ask that I missed? Because I thought I was stopping.
Yeah, well, there is one, but I wanted to wait till you went through this because the question is more on develop some e-learning simulation. They want to develop simulations, e-learning scenarios, but have no access to actual budget or the e-learning tools like Captivate, Storyline. Was thinking PowerPoint might be able to do some things. Can you address like any other ideas of how to get started? I've suggested we have in the Allen Academy a class on short sims that uses a bunch of different tools that aren't the normal instructional design tools to look at more closely. But other than that, what other ideas might you have?
Yeah, I mean, there are some tools that are out there, and I want to be very careful when I say this, that are built to do simulations because they're a way of printing up a sequence of multiple choice questions. And what you do is you create a question and you say, if you answer it this way, you go that way. You answer this, you go that way. It's a create your own adventure book. It doesn't allow for delayed feedback, delayed scoring, complex or adaptive learning. But people have tools out there that if you like the way it works and the way it looks, then you can just put your content into it. And there are some systems that do that. And we've had to use those systems because we've had clients that want us to do that. And we usually do that as a first step. And then when we work with them, we slowly, they were able to get budgets because they were able to be successful. And then as they get budgets, we migrate them to more and more effective learning designs. But I know, just trying to remember the name of it. Rich, I remember an ex-employee of ours worked there. Was it Smart Builder? Was one of them.
Yeah, that's one of them. There's so many of them. It's hard.
Yeah, if you just look up like quick sim tool and we have the class on it, we're not going to get to the point of recommending them, except for the fact that if you do it and it works because it's an improvement over a narrated PowerPoint, and that gets you to get a budget and time, and then you just want us to mentor you, and it's a way in, then I would recommend it as a means to an end. But I don't want, especially with Dr. Allen here, to say I recommend it because it's what we would do, but we have done them with clients on a path. And that's why we say everyone has a different need. So on the screen, I'm showing a little deeper descriptions. And what we wanted to do was ask, just for yourself internally, every project could be different. You might have to be 3 of these at the same time. But if you were to pick one that you do the most, or that you're being asked to do the most, like you're not given enough time, or you're like, oh no, they said I could spend as much money, but I better make sure there's some results. You can put it in chat, just curious, just type a number, 1 through 7. What is the one that best describes you? Got to mentor me. Oh, cool. Got another mentor me. How am I doing on time, Rich? Like if we were to add up the agenda.
You're doing pretty good. I think you're over at about close. 20 minutes. I think you're moving at a decent pace. Okay. And getting that additional information in there, which what everybody appreciates and what they're here for.
Okay, great. All right, well, you're typing that in. Being that I kind of jumped ahead, I rarely get through a PowerPoint, and I've never gotten through one without jumping around. The technology we use, which is a responsive HTML framework, we affectionately call it AR5. That was the spreadsheet I showed you. That was the little editor I showed you. We have created HTML5 templates for clients over the years. And we used SAM not to build a suite that we sell, like we got 10, we got 15, we got 20, and they're up there and you can pay $500 a piece. We really want to make sure we're designing it the right way so that it hits your audience, it hits the learning need, it hits your business goals. But once we built it, if we built it right, and for example, we did a big project for a large automotive manufacturer. If you were to Google us and look at any webinars we've done in the past, we did one with them. And so it's out there in the public domain. And we did it with them and their learning management system because we were training on their migration to Salesforce. And they were doing it for customer service, billing, collections, everything that this financial side of this automotive manufacturer did. And we needed to create activities around how do you have persuasive conversations with people while following the law. And at the same time, the software is up because as you're going through a workflow and you need to learn what your workflow is and decision points, you also need to know where in the software you would get information or put information in, or when you would pass it off, who you would alert, and making sure you didn't violate any laws. And we did that by creating a set of activities. One was a conversation while you're playing in the software. One might be figuring out what would be the proper approach. Different clients, someone who forgot to pay their first bill is not the same as someone who has been notoriously late, even to the point where their vehicle has been repossessed multiple times. There's just different approaches. So we create an activity of identifying the person, the approach, and how you would modify the steps you would take to get the maximum amount of money on the call or set up a payment plan. And once we built them, we were able to use them over and over again because there might have been a need to have 15 or 20 different scenarios because someone might be at the point of, I'm getting my vehicle repossessed, but I'll have money in 30 days. Might be a teacher who doesn't work the summer and doesn't save money. And then the summer, they always struggle to make their payments. Different scenarios. But we're able to create a scenario activity and then build 14 versions of it. So it made the development go very fast, a lot faster than they had ever dreamed. And it also reduced the training time because we made sure we used the process. We built a templated technology. So we created the components or the different learning activities like we were talking about in the design tool. We then created a database where we could store, and that spreadsheet actually populates the database. But being that we keep all of that separate, we basically are integrating the content with the templates, and not just the content, but the logic. And I'm going to show you an example where you can see the logic, but we can determine the branch path, what's right, what's wrong, the KPIs, media, whether it's embedded or linked. All of that could be in a document or kind of a TurboTax view where it's screen by screen, depending. And then you don't need to have an authoring tool. In fact, for that example of the new California Fair Housing Act, the lawyers got involved and we trained them how to use the spreadsheet. And instead of us spending weeks in reviews, we just gave them the spreadsheet. They made their legal edits and we hit a button that said upload content. Boom, we were done. Translation, same thing. So
Steve,
this is the technology. Yeah, go ahead.
You just mentioned Irvine, but did you show that on the screen? Did I miss that? Or
No. I actually didn't say the customer name. We were going to stay away from customer names.
Yeah. But, well, that one we can actually show the example and share with people. But I just want to make sure that you weren't showing it on the screen because I didn't see it. So.
Nope.
Okay.
So I'm going to do some demos. So at a high level, I've covered this stuff is being that we're building it with HTML5 and CSS and JavaScript, it's future proof. It's not like Flash. It's not going away. It's what people use to build websites, e-commerce. It's basically the GoDaddy approach to online learning. Don't care about the LMS because unlike Storyline or Captivate, we didn't give you a dialog box to figure out how you're going to do the LMS and hope your LMS is industry standard. We put them in. So we run any version of SCORM, even things that aren't SCORM compliant. We can tweak the communication with whatever LMS. We can also put in API commands. We've talked directly to things like Salesforce, talk directly to HR systems. So we can set that up. Even done old technologies like AICC, no problem. We've even emailed people spreadsheets if they don't have any way and they just put it on a website and don't have an LMS. And then being that the content is external, we actually have gotten all of our translation firms to accept that spreadsheet, and they give us back the spreadsheet translated, but they can get the editor and they load it and they QA it in right there in the program. So instead of us having to integrate it and test it and tell them, oh, didn't work, it bled off the screen, or the client saying that's not the right way I would do it, they translate the spreadsheet, they get the editor, they upload it, they run it, they QA it right there on the screen, they fix it. And so they have taken over the QA side. By the time we get it, it's really shortened the amount of time it takes. If you've ever translated something, being the middle person in that, it's really painful. We build it so it's mobile responsive. We can get a higher level of interactivity because once we build it, it's reusable. And then we create a learning library for our clients so they can reuse anything they've done in the past, and then they build new stuff when they need it, and the library just keeps growing. And then we can access, display, use any type of media, and full use of code and variables, so we can make the user interface and the user's experience whatever we want to do. And we can track it because being that we built it, we can send whatever item analysis data you want. We can do. We've actually sent. We do work for, and I think we're allowed to say the search engine, aren't we, Rich?
Yes.
It's from our website, right?
Yes.
Google. So we actually worked with Google and built stuff where we sent an amazing amount of data to Google Analytics, and they've never showed us what they did with it because they said that's their secret sauce. So just a high level, deliver it on anything, make it look any way you want it. We can create a consistent learner experience. If any of you have used Storyline or Captivate, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do to copy and paste, and then people end up going in there and messing around with stuff and making their own versions. The ability to use existing designs and then create custom activities that build your library. Yes, we have integrated text to speech. It's just an API. So yep, we can do that. We can talk to devices. We can talk to other systems if they have an API. And then from the future proofing, the code that we use, we've actually got clients who build, for example, everyone's got banking apps on their phone, and there are companies that build those apps, and then the banks just license them. We've built training where they can just go in and create different versions, and then it puts the backgrounds, logos, and everything, brands it, so you can create white label derivatives. And we were talked about the language translation, and this code, it's not proprietary. If you do view source, it's HTML5 and JavaScript. You don't need an authoring tool, and it isn't locked up. And that tool's never going to become, non-existent like Flash, because it's straight HTML and JavaScript.
And Steve, what's the most, in your mind, complicated or the vast number of things? And I know one of them that you're going to show is lots and lots of different ingredients of things, but right. how we build things using AR5 really shortens the path to getting all this information in there.
Well, John, the one I'm going to show you, which we are allowed to show, was pretty complex because it's simulating a device with a lot of different variables. But we built something that simulates the construction of an oil platform or a refinery that is actually something that takes 5 days to go through. And every decision you make, we've actually built it to where it might not come into play until day 3. So, for example, you could hire tugboats to pull stuff out to sea. And you can either hire them cheaply and say, I want you for 6 months, or you can hire them whenever you need them, but you're paying 4 times as much because they're on call. And then they come out when you need it. Well, if you don't think that your project is going to get delayed, you're better off doing the 6 months. The problem is if your project ends up taking a year, then you got to pay them another 6 months. And that's more expensive than only calling them on the days you needed them. And they were just sitting for 6 months doing nothing because you were 6 months behind. So all of that is built in, and we made it really easy in that spreadsheet to put in those variables and say what it impacts. So we have turned creating the most complex simulation we ever built and basically writing a book and putting numbers. And we worked with the subject matter experts in the L&D department at that energy company, and they are able to modify and make derivative works for the simulation for any situation they can come up with. All right, so let me flip over now. We have a project portfolio, and yes, we've hid the names to protect the critical. Let me jump over and let's see, right here, bring this back up. So I'm going to jump here to Jamba Juice. They're one of the people that were kind enough to say, yeah, you can use us. Now, you got to picture teenagers sitting in a back room, spending a week trying to memorize hundreds of recipes. Now, you've gone into a Starbucks. Do you ever see anyone pulling out a menu? No, they just have to know it. They just have a whole lot less things they need to know how to do. I mean, they know there's espresso or coffee in it, and they know there might be some kind of a creamer that might be soy or whatever. But you tell them I want a caramel mocha latte with soy. Like, you already gave them half the battle right there. But you go into a Jamba Juice and you say that I want a mango supreme, and it's like, oh, well, what size? Well, that's a lot to remember. So if you look on the screen, what we did is we said, you know what, we are not going to take all of your content and try to create pages and pages and pages. And we're not going to create Jeopardy. We're not going to create games that are memorization games. We're just going to put them on the job. So the difference between practice, challenge, and test is practice, we really walk them through. It's still a simulation, but we give them all the hints and everything right there on the screen. Challenge, we take the hints away and we give them a clock, but they can stop the clock, go look, and then come back, but they can only do one or the other. They can't have the help on the screen while they're solving. And the test, oh, they have no access to the job aids, and they have a time. And until they can pass the test, which randomly pulls, let's say 10 of these, then nope, you're not allowed out there on the floor. So we go into challenge mode. Now, this is an instructional design that once we start, we tell them you have a medium Aloha pineapple, and when you click start, you have 1 minute. Now, it's a multiple choice question. It's actually a series of multiple choice questions, but what we do is we give them every juice they have. We don't have to pick the right answer and then figure out 3 distractors. By doing it this way, that means that if I go into recipes, that for all their hundreds of recipes and for all of the multiple sizes of the recipes, I only need one question, because this question has every single ingredient and every single size of scoops and cups. This one question can be used thousands of times. So we spend a lot of time building one question that can be reused for every single one of these. So they've got all their smoothies, they've got juices, and being that this stuff already existed, we gave them access to it, and they can download it, they can print it, close. All right, so being that it's an Aloha, oh, great. I ran out of time, so I don't know, acai juice and 2 ounces, and yep, go ahead, Rich.
No, just in curiosity as far as the whole back end. So say you want to add the Steve special into here, and it's a hot seller, and you want to train all your people. How quickly can you make that change?
All right, I'll show you that. So let me add this. So I'll put those in. I'm going to go ahead and hit blend, and then we actually make it the color, because part of our content document is what color the ingredients are. So it figures out what color, and that just doesn't look right. Pineapple should not be that color. All right, so then if we go to the correct recipe, it says they're all incorrect and missing ingredients. That's what you should have done. So the question you asked, Rich, if we come over to here, every single bowl, smoothie, juice they have goes down in column A. And in these other columns is every ingredient they have. And to make it work, you just put in 2 ounces of that. You put a 2 in there. So for every single one of these things, all they did is they can just come in here and change this stuff. And if they want to add, they just go to the bottom and add at the end. If they want to delete, they just delete in here. They want to change the name of it. They want to change the recipe. Even changing these changes what's on the screen. And then we color coded them, and the colors are meaningful. So that's how you change it. You change it here. And then you go back to that quick change tool that I had showed you. And after you make a change, you basically do load data, And then you don't have to launch the module. You just go back to the browser window and hit refresh. Voila. Now, how do you get it on your LMS? There's a button here that says download, score, and package. And when you click it, it puts a file in your drive, in your downloads folder that you can give to your LMS team. And if you want to upload, you could just drag and drop files here. If you go into the tools, actually, I think I need to, yeah, I didn't think of all these. We have the ability for you, some of the new ones that you can have. It's got an entire library. You can see the PDFs, you can see the sounds, the movies, the images, and everything that you've uploaded. And it's got a full management suite built in there. So you upload all of these, or you could put a link. No Pens interface yet. We're working on that. Actually, this was built in Angular and Bootstrap, and we are currently building a React version where it does that. It has the online, you can double click on the screen. It got pens and all that stuff. So we're working on that to make a better version.
Okay, Steve, we've got about 10 minutes left here.
Okay.
What's your important leave for how to make your budgets work for your projects?
Right. So, well, let me just do a little, we do all this stuff. You guys can find our website. Okay. So I'm going to actually jump all the way back to the agenda because I think that lays it out. That it's basically this. First, only build what you really need to build. Not everything is a bunch of facts, and not everything has to be on the page, and you don't have to have narrated text and graphic, and you don't need to put everything in front of someone to memorize when it's going to change. So find out what you really need, and if you've got job aids, or if you create them is quicker, then create some job aids, like Jamba Juice. You know, let's say that job aid didn't exist. Maybe you could put it somewhere where they could see it. Maybe that would be better. Teach them how to look things up quicker so that customers don't see them trying to find something. I don't know. Maybe put it on their phone. But define what the real need is and only build the real need and find quicker, easier ways to do the rest. Then we would say, if you use an agile process, that you have the time to build some great interactivity. You have time to build reusable learning environments where you could build one or two instead of building everything as a unique screen. You're building a way to deliver a really pretty effective way of delivering content. Then you write the content to fit the delivery, and it takes a lot less time to write it and a lot less time in reviewing back and forth with the subject matter experts of, well, I told you what wouldn't fit on the screen. Well, but it needs to say this. Well, we don't have enough seat time for that. So that makes it go faster. And then based on what you need to just admit, I'm just trying to get this done fast, or I need to be flexible, that you need to create a project schedule and a workflow around, you know, sort of your constraints. And then we would recommend, if you use Storyline or Captivate, find a way to build some templates. But we found if you use technologies that allow for external content, that you could then create things that are so highly reusable and editable that it saves you time, and especially when everything's changing daily. So I would just say, if you do these 4 steps, that would be the summary. All right, so whatever time we got left, 7 minutes for more questions and answers?
More questions, or we can put it out there. Other examples that people might want to see, they've heard about, we can have Steve show, but have another question. This isn't what is out there, but what have we done, Steve? And that's a good one that you're bringing up there, Mary Kay.
Yep.
What other industries or subject matter have we done? Because now you're showing as far as this is all sales and
this is, I mean, we've done with Mary Kay, we've taught people about products. This was 3.5 million independent beauty consultants built this, and it, you know, as Rich was saying before, this is built to work on a phone. And so, you know, if I click on one of these, like the getting started, what little hamburger menu here, and then if I expand it back out, then we go back to this kind of menu. They had thousands and thousands of hours of video, and they needed to create a 90-day program. Yes, 90 days of training. And they wanted to order it so that the first day, the first week, the first month, it is set up to follow your path through Mary Kay. And so we've done product training. We do sales training. It's got both of those. We've even done some social training, because here, as you're basically saying, why are you here? It is coming up with people who are like you. And then these are all people where you can see their stories and connect with. So there's a little social learning in the background. This is for you to create your own story so you could be added later. All these links to these Super Bowl quality commercial videos. We actually have them create a business plan. And then based on the plan, it fills this in and tells them what their monthly cost is going to be. And then they can go in and get more training on all of this. Based on this plan, it decides which of these towels you're going to get, because you might just want to get enough for friends and family. So you get through booking and appointments and conducting a party, but do you want to get to the part where you have people under you, multi-level marketing? There's no such thing as a pyramid. Do you want to get to where you have a jacket where you're increasing your earning, or do you want to basically own a county, a city, a neighborhood, and become a multi-millionaire? That business plan, which we keep bringing back to them, they keep deciding if they want to move up and take on more responsibility. And then these kind of come into play based on where they need them to be. So this is, in booking your appointment, a conversation of, let's see, where was that booking? Oh, how to book an appointment. In here is your classic, I'm trying to sell someone on makeup, but they have objections. And so here, being that this is built as a template, these were the different situations they came up with. And it might be, I'm allergic to the makeup. And so here, sorry, Cindy, I've tried it and I have an allergic reaction. And so now you have to pick, that's awful. How long ago was it? Because you think maybe it's just the time. That's awful, may I ask which products, or that's awful, but it was probably an isolated incident. Well, if I go that way, perhaps, but she's not trying it again. And so, some of these ends it right away. Some of them you get 2 or 3 steps in, and some of them she actually lets you get to the end and you can sell it. And so she's letting you go forward. Great. Well, let's see. I would never ask you to put anything on your face. If you actually say this, it's the longest one, so you think that's the right answer, but no, it's not. But we could say is, have you checked out our latest product line? Because maybe it was an older line. And like, no, I just don't want to risk it. So they actually have a process called CARE. And if you use this, you do a check, an acknowledge, a respond, and you wait for an answer, then if you follow that, you end up overcoming their objections. So hopefully, Rich, that's what you wanted me to show. Something different.
Yep, something different. And Steve talked earlier, that was a piece that was on compliance, and a lot of the things that Steve talked about, I know the Jamba Juice and the compliance one was limited budget on their end, and Steve spoke how we created and built the initial part, the engine, and then they did a lot of the heavy lifting or DIY part of the factor of doing their things. So questions about budgets and how we can work together and stay within your budget, we've done lots of it, so we can help you out with that. There was another one that I don't know if you can explain it. I don't think you have it pulled up, but the financial services group, one of the initial pieces that we had in HTML5, AR5 type of thing.
Yeah, I'm actually in the sheet, and I don't see the Irvine one right off. Basically, there was a financial institution that said, you know what, we're not going to have you invest based on the interest rates or the market, because the truth is you really want to invest based on your emotions. So they have a card game, and they get the 2 significants if it's a couple, and they give them 15 cards, and 5 of them are fear-based. Like, I don't want to be on the street. I don't want to lose everything I've worked hard for. There's some commitment cards. I want to make sure that my children are taken care of. And there's some happiness cards, guilt-free spending. Okay. Then one person picks 5, the other picks 5, then the 2 of them battle it out to get 5 that they have in common. And then the financial analyst goes through and says, okay, one thing you want to do is you want to make sure your children are taken care of. Well, the way you're doing it is by saving. Well, it would cost less money to get you on a whole life. So let's get you on a whole life. And that way you're guaranteed they're going to get the $2 million you want them to get. Now go pick another card. And they put together this process and a site, and then they charge an extra monthly fee to go through this. It's almost like marriage counseling and financial advising put together, and other financial institutions are actually licensing their approach. So we created the online boot camp to make it easier for them to sell it as a product. Because when it was just their people, they brought them in, and of course, this was before COVID. They'd have a live boot camp. When they started selling it, it became impossible. So we created their boot camp training, and the tool they used was Salesforce. So we actually were talking directly to Salesforce to pass the data.
And then, Steve, can you explain a little bit more about the content grid? As far as I don't believe, but this might be my fault, that it needs to be Google Sheets. Could it be Excel, any
Yeah.
online sheet type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we do Excel and you upload it. We do form-based where it's one screen at a time. It looks like TurboTax. To be honest, this is not an authoring tool. We like Google Sheets because it exports JSON. What is JSON? It's a text file format. Some people might have heard of XML in the past. So when we save this, if I go in here and let's say that I download a SCORM package, then this thing is going to download. And when it's done, I'm going to bring this over here. It creates an index.html and all your images are here. And in JSON, it's got all of the stuff that was in that spreadsheet, because this is what, when you're in Storyline or you're in Captivate and you package as HTML, this is exactly what it builds. So all we're doing is using Excel to create a different way to put the content in. And then we use HTML to build the activities so that you don't have to have an authoring tool. But the output, when we do that download, it's what it creates. Now, if you're actually in here, and let's say I'm in the Jamba Juice and I do view source, I mean, basically, yeah, I mean, it actually is it's a routine. And so this is the source. I think I might have, let's see, it might be a source of just a part of it. So let's see if I view the source of this one. Yep, that's just the source of that one object. And then I think the blender might be something. Nope. Yeah, this is a very simple routine that it's doing when it gets to here, but it's just putting HTML5 out. So we didn't create an authoring tool. We just created an easier way for people to create JSON without having to know how to program an HTML. That's all. So we liked and started with Google Sheets because Google Sheet exports to JSON as a native format. And then clients said they don't allow Google. So we had to come up with a way to upload a spreadsheet. So we start here on that quick change. There's a button here that says upload spreadsheet. You click it, it sucks it up. Now, problem is, what if you blew up something in the spreadsheet that you added a column or row, or you deleted a tab, you changed something, and then how much error checking are we doing? Because we didn't build an authoring tool, we just created an editor. So for those clients, we've had to do a little extra work locking things down, but we're able to do it without Google Sheets. All right, well, I think we're there. We actually went a minute over. So anyone that stuck around, thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you all, and it's there. We have some more webinars coming up. Please check the Allen Interactions events page. Also, check out. We just spent the last 6 months or so updating and putting new content on the Allen Interactions website. So we appreciate you to come and visit. Also, I am Rich Peterson. I am the primary person behind the webinar Ask Question, or the website Ask Questions. So if you ever have any questions when you hit our website, if I'm online, it'll probably be me answering those questions. And again, we'd be happy to set up for you team a strategy type meeting up to like 90 minutes where we can discuss what your needs are, what your questions are, and take it from there. We've gotten a lot of specific meetings like that set up based on other content that we've talked about. So we're always willing to talk to you, figure out and help you go to the next steps. So this webinar is being recorded and it will be available. We'll be sending out an email to all the people who have registered with a link to the webinar, but it is also can be found on the events page as well as the other on-demand webinars we've done over the past at least 6 months are there. But thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Steve, for being a great presenter of this information.
Okay, appreciate it.
And have a great rest of the day.
Okay. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you coming.